Hey there, and thank you for tuning in to Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, aka the Brick Archivist, and today I'm coming to you with another breaking news video. New details have been revealed about the LEGO Ninjago 2021 first half of the year sets. Of course, starting off with the action sets, we've got different gimmick sets of Kai, Cole, Zane, and Jay, and they are confirmed to contain 2 minifigures and essentially what is a small side build like a weapon shrine alongside them. So obviously it's pretty clear that you're buying these for the figures. It is yet to be known whether or not these will contain any sort of action gimmick whatsoever. I find it strange that they just include a $10 set with 2 figures and no sort of gimmick at all. Of course, we had the arcade pods just this year with 2 figures and a specially molded capsule, so maybe we'll see something like that in these. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The other news regarding the legacy sets is that every single one of them is going to include an exclusive golden variant of the Ninja. Now, these are not the rebooted golden outfits, unfortunately, because we still are missing Cole's, but these are an entirely new form of golden outfit. Who knows whether or not these will play into the show at all? I'm guessing maybe they will, because it seems strange that they'd include these in the mainline sets for not playing any part in the show. And the other detail about the minifigures that we have, either in the Legacy or the Season 14 sets, it wasn't explicitly stated, but it's the fact that they all have uniquely molded hair, and in this case, each of their hair has headbands printed on them. So this might be a good thing or a bad thing for some fans who are really hoping to finally get Zane's hair in silver. We still haven't gotten his updated movie hair in silver yet. It's a little frustrating, especially for people who are wanting to put them on display or to animate them. We just don't have it in that color. And so we might be getting it, but with the caveat, there will be a molded band around it. But I guess that's better than nothing. The other details that we know is that one, Jay's Electromech for $20. There are some more set details revealed about it. The leaker described it as having large legs and also said it'll come with an Anacon drive vehicle. Now this is particularly interesting because this is a $20 set, so the main vehicle itself will already be pretty small and it will be including a side build, which is pretty rare. I'm guessing, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be a legacy version of the Anacondri mech polybag. It's one of the few polybags that actually appeared in the show. It was a very limited release polybag. In fact, I got mine somewhere in Europe. I didn't even see it in the States. So maybe they'll take the chance to actually take that concept from the show and do a proper mech battle, even though these 2 mechs never actually fought in the show itself. On to the next set. Kai's X1 Ninja Charger is described as being very similar to the original set, but a little bit beefier, which I personally am not really surprised by. There aren't too many changes that you can make to what is essentially just a red sports car with a removable hood, so I'm guessing it's going to be pretty much similar to that. In terms of Zane's titanium mech, they did confirm that the set is just focused on the mech. Despite having the word battle in the name, there's no indication that the ghost mech will actually appear there to fight it. So I'm guessing that all of these $70 budget will go pretty much into making a really beefy Zane mech, which should be very exciting because the previous one was pretty small, despite coming in a bigger set because there were 2 of them. And finally, onto what is maybe the most exciting news of all. As I predicted in our earlier prediction video, the Tournament of Elements set for $30 will contain 3 of the missing Elemental Masters. That will be Belobo, Gravis, and Jacob Pevsner. You'll notice that now we are just missing 1. We're still missing Camille, which is a little bit disappointing because honestly, this was the best opportunity for us to get that minifigure, and we were missing 4. Now we're missing 1, which obviously is a big step up over previous years. We just have no idea when or if we'll ever even get that last missing figure. So I was really hoping that they would include all 4 missing ones in this set, but 3 is pretty good too. They also said that it includes Kai and Jay, which does make sense because LEGO does need to put some of the quote-unquote mainline ninja characters into their kind of minifigure pack sets like this, just in order to allow them to be sold and be popular with kids who maybe aren't familiar with some of the older characters. Moving on to Season 14, we have a ton of new details regarding these sets. First of all, the minifigures. This year's villain tribe is said to have lavender skin and have a tribal warrior aesthetic with shields and spears, etc. Some of them even have 2 heads stacked on top of each other, which should be certainly a very interesting look. What's most exciting to me is that it's described that they all have these tribal masks. I don't know if they're going to reuse the same mold as the tribal warrior from the collectible minifigures. Since that came out so many years ago and was only used in that one figure, I'm guessing they're going to do new molds for them. Maybe some sort where you can flip them up like a visor instead of that one which attached around the neck, but I can expect it to be looking something like that, which should be really interesting and a pretty unique aesthetic we haven't really seen with LEGO since Islanders. The one interesting thing to me is that having lavender skin puts them pretty similarly placed next to the Geckos from season 13, who in the sets were described as a quote-unquote villain faction. In the show, they were actually good guys, so I don't know what the discrepancy was on that, but they were presented as villains in the sets, and they also had lavender skin, so I'm curious how they will exactly differentiate those from these new figures. But it should be a pretty interesting aesthetic overall. We haven't, of course, seen this whatsoever in the show before. Another leaker described them as having a quote-unquote underwater aesthetic, especially for the Catamaran Sea battle. So I'm not exactly clear on what that means because it does seem to be a big focus on a jungle island, but maybe once they go out on sea, there'll be some underwater stuff. Speaking of the sets themselves, the Catamaran Sea battle is said to, as I predicted, include 2 boats. One of them is for Kai, or it's a red boat, but not the Destiny's Bounty, and the other one is for the villain faction to battle. And again, we haven't seen really anything like this in a LEGO set before with 2 ships battling each other, so that should be pretty interesting to see when it comes out. The next thing is that for the set described as the village, they said that it's actually more like a stone temple, which I'm pretty interested in. I'm curious to see what the aesthetic of that is. And this is really just a set dedicated purely to the villain faction. They were quoted as being called guards, but that could be just a rough translation. And this is described to be a massive stone temple with some mossy detailing and a ton of the new villain figures, which is pretty much to be expected. And finally, for the Jungle Dragon, this is described as a turquoise-colored dragon with gold highlights. Allegedly, there are no wings, and instead it moves just like a lizard, which I think is most similar to the Unagami Empire Dragon, which came out earlier this year in January. And again, Lloyd's bike is described to be just pretty much another Ninjago bike. There really wasn't anything special about it that the leakers even bothered to mention. All they said about this one is that it's a new bike for Lloyd, which we've seen about 10 times now. And with that, that about wraps up all the new information on these figures. Of course, some really interesting tidbits to dissect here, and I'm very excited to see how both these and the Legacy sets turn out. The other thing that I'm very curious about is that with the new exclusive gold minifigure introduced in the Legacy sets, is it just going to be those 1 figures on their own, or is it kind of going to be like a Star Wars anniversary type thing where the figures will be kind of on the side with their own display stand separate from the main set, and the main set might actually include another one of the figures. Like for example, Jay's Electromech could come with a regular Legacy Jay, but come with say a golden Kai or Cole or Zane or something like that, just to kind of give it some diversity and not put 2 of the same character in one set. But I guess we'll have to see. Perhaps the only variants in the Legacy sets will all be golden, which will be a little bit strange. I'm curious to see how that factors in the story. But that is, again, all the information we have. So stay tuned to Duckbricks for more LEGO news, reviews, and discussion coming your way very soon. And thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye for now.